The problem was that before I was bitten and transformed, I was a vegetarian. And when I realized what he had done to me, I was furious. I refused to eat anything. I went on a hunger strike. Well, defiance doesn't exactly go over very well with Count Dracula, as I'm sure you can imagine. He brought me by ship to San Francisco and settled me in the underground tunnels beneath Nob Hill, where the vampire community resides. When I finally got up the nerve to come above ground and explore the city on my own, Grace Cathedral was the first place I felt welcome. Grace Cathedral was modeled after Notre Dame in Paris. The Nob Hill Cafe's only been here for about 15 years, but the reason I bring people here is because of the history of what happened there. The name of the restaurant was Feeding After Dark, and unfortunately for the mortals, they didn't understand the true meaning in the title. It's a feeding, it's for nourishment, it's not meant to kill, but you know, hey, it happens, what can I say? Everybody makes mistakes, and I've seen some people get pretty into their food too. Huntington Park is possibly the most valuable piece of property in all of San Francisco. The Huntington Mansion took up this entire park, and it came to an interesting ending. During the 1906 earthquake, the fire was completely out of control. Unfortunately, some of the homes that had survived the earthquake and fire had to be dynamited to stop the fire in their area, and the Huntington Mansion was one of those homes. This is the Pacific Union Club. This was the home of Mr. and Mrs. James Flood and their family. It's one of the few buildings that survived the 1906 earthquake and fire. Well, movies always say vampires are afraid of the sun or they hate the sun. No, we're allergic to it. But luckily, Max Factor is one of us. And he's come up with a product that would take the skin right off of you. The Fairmont Hotel, you name it, they've stayed here. But the most remembered guests are the men who were shipped out of San Francisco during World War II. Every one of them was given a room on the 7th floor the night before they were shipped out. Well, that 7th floor is now totally haunted. The penthouse. That room is haunted by May Flood, James Flood's sister-in-law. She lived up there for many years, and she told him she would never leave, and I guess she wasn't kidding. Ashwood is the only kind of wood that's going to destroy a vampire, and that's because the cross was made out of ashwood. The stake has to go not only through the heart, but into the coffin as well. Because when that happens, that vampire is pinned in. Still one of the most famous bars in the world, the Mark Hopkins Hotel, top of the Mark's major claim to fame is that they invented the martini with 100 variations of that drink. But if you decide to do your own little taste test with your friends, if you do end up, you know, providing a meal, a secondhand hangover is brutal. And a hungover vampire is not a pretty sight anyway, so please go easy on the drinks.